Hi everyone, Sally Garozzo here. How are you doing this evening? So, a very warm welcome to you all. And today is all about how to deal with rage at menopause and midlife. So, we're going to be diving into this very hot topic. And this is a very pertinent topic. It's also potentially a sensitive topic and also a bit of a triggering topic for some people. So, if you are watching this, I want you to be very aware of your triggers and please set the intention now just to be super kind to yourself as you watch this and just maybe, watch it a couple of times if you need to integrate all of it fully. Hopefully, it will only be about 30 minutes. So, let me just turn WhatsApp off because I know that's going to ping. So, what are we going to talk about today? So, we're going to talk about, we're going to try to understand a little bit more about why this rage is going to come up, especially at this time in our lives. We're also going to look at what purpose does it serve, because anything that you have in your life, even if it's something that you don't want, is there for a reason. And then we're going to look into how we can navigate it. But first, what I want to do is just set the scene a little bit for us. And I just want to ask you to really check in with yourself to understand a little bit more about how anger shows up in your life. So, excuse me. I have clients, a lot of clients in their midlife, in their 40s, in their 50s, who seem to have it all. They've got a great job. They've got really good health. They work on their nutrition. They work on their exercise. They work on their mindset. They seem to have got it all. They've got a family, husband, wife, children, and a good job. They're fulfilled. But underneath it all, there's this feeling of injustice, or there might be this feeling that they're tired, or they don't feel particularly recognised, or they feel unheard or unsupported in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they're bored in their life. Maybe they feel a bit jaded. Maybe they feel like there's an injustice going on somewhere, either in their own life or in the world at large, and they're fed up. They're fed up with what they're seeing. They're fed up with just feeling like, it's that whole thing, nobody puts baby in a corner. They're feeling pissed off with being in a corner or things just not being right. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? I really want you to feel into this for yourself and let me know in the comments what sort of things you get pissed off about. What sort of things do you get angry about in your own life or in the world around you? And very often this anger rises up and it causes a lot of destruction in its path, like a river of lava just destroying everything in its path. Anger is a very, very big emotion. It's very visible. It's very external. It can also be internal. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But it's people have murdered because of anger. People's families have been destroyed because of anger. Cultures have been destroyed because of anger. Friendships have been ruined, careers torn apart because of this untamed anger. So anger can be very destructive, but it can also be skillfully navigated. And that is one of the things I want to talk to you in today's live. So there are two ways that anger usually presents itself: expressive and repressive. So expressive anger, as I said before, is very explosive, it's very outward, it's very external. It has a massive impact on everyone that's around you because it's like a shockwave that goes out and affects everybody's energy who is in the distance of that field. So it can actually traumatize children, An angry parent can traumatize children. An angry boss can traumatize a worker. And it's because it's very visible and almost tactile. But repressive anger we think of expressive anger as being masculine in its energy, and repressive anger, because it's more implosive and internalized, as being more a feminine type of anger. But this repressive anger, which is implosive and internalized, has a massive impact on your mental health and physical health as well. So it just goes in and eats away your organs. And people that have this repressive anger, they usually are blaming self, and people who have expressive anger are usually blaming others predominantly. Of course, every case is nuanced, but predominantly that's kind of what's going on here. And so people with repressive anger tend to have really quite severe mental health issues, and perhaps suicidal idealization, and also self-harming. And women going through the menopause, it has been known that self-harming increases during that time, because we don't feel seen, we don't feel heard, we don't feel understood. And there's anger at that. And rightly so. I think we need to use that anger for the greater good. So like I said, it's usually a mix of both for people, and really something that needs to be navigated carefully, because anger turns into violence. Violence directed inwardly or violence directed outwardly. Self-harm, murder, maiming, all that stuff. For me personally, I've experienced anger during my menopausal transition, quite a lot of it as well. It seems to be a mix of both, external and internal, explosive and implosive. I don't know how it's been for you. But really for me, understanding anger and why it's there, its purpose, and its kind of medicinal component really helps us to navigate it skillfully. So perhaps, if you want, you don't have to let me know, but maybe consider for yourself, where has anger been out of character for you? Where has the dial been turned up quite significantly in your anger? Does it come up in road rage? Does it come up in jealousy towards other people? Does it come up in uncontrollable outbursts when your partner doesn't do what he's supposed to do or she's supposed to do? Or is it more internalized? Do you self-criticize? Are you nitpicking at yourself and other people? So just as a little aside here, it's very interesting that we're talking about skillful anger management and unskillful anger management. Interestingly, we see a lot of unskilled anger management in our politics, don't we? And in our religions and in our systems. And Gabor Mate, I heard him say something recently which went like, we don't live in evidence-based societies. We live in societies that are based on unconscious dynamics, and people are largely unconscious. So this is really an invitation to don't be unconscious anymore. Like, shine a light on yourself. That's all you can do. It's impossible to make or force other people to wake up. You have to be the one to do it yourself. So anger, when it presents, is an invitation to inquire and to have a look, to go, why are you there? What are you telling me? Because we don't want things like anger, these hot emotions. We don't want that to be in the hands of the wrong people who are largely unconscious, because, things get very violent. And then it's an outward projection. But of course, there is another way. There is another way. But firstly, we need to understand why anger is here and why do we get more angry, especially at menopause. What is the reason for this anger? And why do we get angry at menopause? So I'd like to take a look at this from a biopsychosocial approach. So biopsychosocial just means from a biological approach, a psychological approach, and then a social and cultural approach as well. So let's look at the biological first. And here I'm going to stretch into the energy world as well. Because Chinese medicine has a lot to say about anger and the liver. So in Chinese medicine, there is a huge link between liver function and anger and rage. So if your liver is not happy, you may experience more anger. And many doctors, when you go to the doctor, they will check in with your heart. They will check in with, your cardio health. But liver sometimes, not all the time, but the importance of liver function, especially at menopause, tends to get overlooked. So we need to look at the liver. So at menopause, the liver is under a huge amount of pressure, especially if we become estrogen dominant, because the liver has to clear out all of that estrogen. So what is estrogen dominant? So our hormones are lowering in menopause, but usually the progesterone lowers faster than the estrogen because of stress. Stress eats into the progesterone. And then you get this relative dominance of estrogen. When you've got this relative dominance of estrogen, you get problems like bloating, swelling, fibroids, endometriosis, because estrogen is a growth hormone. So here's your liver, because of those declining hormones in that ratio, here's your liver busy trying to conjugate and process all of this estrogen, but it may be also battling with poor diet, environmental toxins and stress and alcohol and sugar and things like that. So in Chinese medicine, when you eat or consume sugar and alcohol, for example, you heat up the liver. When you heat up the liver, you get the experience of anger. And it's much harder to contain the anger. So if you are struggling with anger, it might be worth looking at your sugar and alcohol content for sure. And my friend Joe Darling, who's an acupuncturist, gave me the example on one of my podcast episodes. If you look at somebody who is drinking a lot of alcohol compared to somebody who is taking a lot of drugs, the person drinking the alcohol is more likely to behave more violently than somebody who is perhaps on drugs, who's probably just chatty or hungry or, just stoned. So, yeah, you can sort of see it very visibly in that sense. Alcohol really inflates that anger. And often during midlife and menopause, we are using alcohol as a kind of coping mechanism, as a medicinal way of soothing us at the end of the evening, or if we're potentially in a very stressful situation. So, yeah, it's just making sure that we look at behaviours like that. Okay, so the psycho element of the biopsychosocial approach to anger at midlife. And this is something that I am really, really interested in. Anger or any emotion has a reason for being in our lives. And if we can see what that reason is, if we can let it fulfill its purpose, then often we can manage it better and it no longer becomes this destructive and violent force in our lives. So what I've come to understand recently is the medicinal component of anger is threefold, and this is from Luna Leone. Number one is to really help us fortify and strengthen our boundaries. Number two, sorry, I won't swear at you. Number two is to stake a claim in really honouring ourselves. It's like we are putting the stake in the ground and going, no, we are honouring ourselves. And it's there to also make us very aware of what we care about, what is important to us, and what we value, especially at midlife. So hopefully I'm going to explain all of this for you. But the other thing about anger, which I hadn't really considered fully, is that anger also has a protective quality about it. It's trying to protect the inner being. So when we get angry, it's usually because we are trying to protect something that is very, very important to us and that we care about. And it's really important. This is the healing, that we begin to acknowledge that. What do we care about? When anger kicks in, it's because we are feeling like we need to assert our power over something, because there's a feeling that it might be taken away, or there's a feeling that we don't feel safe in this situation. So let me know if any of this is resonating with you. So the other thing that I heard recently is that anger has been likened to a soldier who is guarding our soul. So our soul, our inner being, knows what is important to us. It knows what we value. It knows what we want. And the soldier is there externally out here to flare up against things that the soul doesn't like. So anger is there to notify us of injustice, unfairness, and things like that. So my personal feeling is that the reason it comes up at menopause and midlife is because this is the time in our lives when we are finally giving ourselves what we need. This is the time in our lives when we have to give ourselves what we need. It's like that do or die, now or never. Now is the time. Because we can't go on like we have been going on. We can't go on not meeting our needs. We can't go on with our needs not being met. And it feels to me like the midlife transition is a window of opportunity for change, for the transformation that we've been seeking through our whole life, maybe. So, yeah, some people get really angry about, being the only ones doing the domestic chores. Some people can become really angry about being the ones who are only making the social plans in the family. Some people can get angry about money, financial injustices, the labour of work injustice, duties, health, etc., etc. There's so many things that we feel are unfair or unjust. And anger is a very powerful way of making us really wake up, because it's such a strong feeling. It's like we can't ignore it. I think alongside grief, anger is probably one of the most powerful emotions that there are, and the most challenging emotions that there are. If we feel lonely, we can find it relatively easy to self-soothe, or bored. It's quite easy to entertain ourselves. But anger, it's like you see red, and it's very, very hard to not see the red, because the red is right there in front of you. So we have to be very skilled at climbing down from that heightened state of awareness and not acting out our unconscious trauma, which is what most of the world leaders do. So anger occurs when something very important to us begins to feel threatened. And that is a good thing. That's a good thing. We want our anger. We need our anger, because we need to be alerted to what is it that's feeling threatened, and what is it that we need to protect? What boundary do we need to set up? So when we feel anger rise, what we need to do is throw it into this metaphorical boundary, like a moat around us, a moat of fire around us, which helps us to regain a sense of, self, a sense of selfhood, a sense of identity, staking that claim into who we are choosing to become at midlife. And that is what is happening at midlife. We are creating this new identity, one which is going to serve us, not serve us, not sabotage us anymore. So I want to explain a little bit more about this idea of boundaries. So in my next point, I will do that. The final point is social. So bio, psycho, social. Thanks for the like, whoever you are. Pop your name in the comments because I can't see who you are. So social. And this is where it's going to get good, especially for the women in the house. So, and the men as well. So culturally, women and the feminine energy is taught that anger is the one emotion that they are not allowed to express. It's not ladylike to express anger. It's not ladylike to get heated or have a debate or, put your point across or to, stand in your power. Don't do that. Women should be seen and not heard. How many of you got that message when you were growing up? How many of you were told it's not okay to rise up, be powerful, be angry, be expressive, stand up for what's right? How many of you were told it's better just to stay conservative? So what is okay for women to experience is sadness. It's okay to cry as a woman, but anger's not okay. It's okay for men or the masculine vibe to get angry, and it's not okay for the masculine energy to be sad. Men need to be strong and powerful, but it's not okay for them to cry. So we get these mixed messages all through our upbringing. And truthfully, gender is very fluid. Gender is like a sliding scale, like the autism spectrum, like the narcissistic spectrum. Gender is a spectrum as well. And, you have the sort of feminine qualities on one end and the masculine qualities on the other end. And, we slide in between it all day with the decisions that we make, with how that we feel. But it's just a way of really trying to understand what's going on. Don't want to be too binary about it. So let's look at why it's not okay for women to really express anger. Let's look at this from a patriarchal point of view. Yes, I'm using that word today. So we know that the patriarchy is highly invested in that white, male, limited perspective, and it tries to suppress anything that threatens it. And women's anger absolutely threatens this white male perspective, because women's anger actually threatens racism, it threatens injustice, it threatens homophobia, it threatens inequality. And these are all of the things that white supremacy wants. So this is the reason why our boundaries now become so important. When women are not allowed to express their anger, that anger, what happens is it kind of collapses internally, it goes inwardly. And when that happens, our boundaries become very loose, we become enmeshed, we lose our sense of self, we don't know where we end and someone else begins. We become porous with our boundaries, we lose our sense of selfhood and our identity weakens. And interestingly, as a quick aside, that's also why you see a lot of women in particular, and men as well, gaining weight at midlife, because their boundaries are extending outwards. Their energy is extending outwards. They're not really sure of where they end and someone else begins. And so where your attention goes, energy flows, and energy will densify as matter. So that's why we extend outwards. So really, this is the work of weight loss. Shedding the weight is implementing strong boundaries. Yeah. So coming back to my point, when we shore up our boundaries, when we shore up our boundaries, we really reclaim our identity and our sense of self. And the patriarchy doesn't like it. The patriarchy wants us weak and collapsed so that it doesn't threaten its existence. Now, when I say patriarchy, I don't want you to think that I am a man hater, because I'm not a man hater. I love men. I love people, full stop. Patriarchy is like, it's, I don't know where it originated from, but it's like a system of control, and patriarchy doesn't work for men either. You know, a lot of men are in a lot of pain right now because they're not allowed to express sadness and grief and sorrow, and they feel alone and isolated. And if they were to be allowed to express their grief, their sorrow, their pain, that would also threaten the existence of racism and inequality and injustice as well. Whew. Heavy stuff, I know. Let's take a breath. So I think things are changing. We are seeing systems crumbling at the moment. We are seeing that feminine quality rising up in people, the feminine quality of compassion and justice and kindness. But we need our anger, because it's our anger that's really going to mobilize this change. And I can't remember who said it, but there was a quote. Sometimes progress needs a solid push. And anger enables us to really push things forward and move things forward. So I'd love to know if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. Holla, let me know how you're feeling about what I'm saying. But I just want you to really remember this, that your anger is there for a reason. Your anger is actually, whilst it feels uncomfortable, it's good. It's a good thing. And I really want you to not try and wish your anger away. I want you to really learn how to feel your anger, but not feed your anger. So often we're not aware of it, but we can feed these hot emotions by obviously alcohol and sugar, but by what we're looking in through our eyes as well. Okay, so what can we do about it? What can we do about our loss of boundaries, anger which feels too uncomfortable to bear, loss of honouring self, loss of clarity, not living in alignment with our values, which is causing us more pain, more anger? What can we do about it? So in a moment, I'm going to just explain to you about rapid transformational therapy and how it can help with all of that. But I really also want you to understand, and I want you to do this inner work for yourself. I want you to try to understand what is the medicinal component of your anger in your life. Because as I said before, everyone's experience is totally unique. And yeah, it's not about getting rid of anger, it's about understanding anger. And also, I think when it comes to relationships and when it comes to arguments in relationships, that's a whole other topic really, but that really can fuel anger even more. And it's about how we communicate when that's rising up. But the best takeaway that I feel that I can give you this evening is, when you feel the anger rising, is this. There's two things. So number one, when you feel the anger rising, I want you to just close your eyes, hold onto your hats, and just breathe into it. I want you to let it be there. However tempting it is to attack the other person, try not to do that. And also, try not to let it collapse into yourself. Try not to let it implode. So I just want you to let it be there. Now, I recently heard this word or this phrase, spiritual bypassing, which basically says that, oh, there's something more important than the anger. There's something underneath the anger which is more relevant, which is more significant, which will lead you to greater and greater and greater spirituality, more unity, greater unity with oneness. But what if that's not true? What if the anger itself is a vehicle for greater and greater connection with unity, source, God, whatever you want to call it, you? What if feeling into it, neither repressing nor expressing, just feeling it, breathing into it? Maybe, what if it's just about that? Now, anger is uncomfortable. I get it. And this is about stretching into that discomfort rather than finding the first outlet for anger, which is usually another person. How about just feeling the anger, breathing into it, and then, or breathing into it like you would breathe into a labor pain? Not that I've had kids, but I've had back pain, pretty severe back pain. And the only thing that you can do when you're experiencing that level of pain is to almost focus on the pain and breathe into it. And, there's nothing else that you can focus on, is there? If someone rings on the telephone, you're like, oh, go away. You're just not interested in anything like that. So you feel it, you breathe into it, you acknowledge it, you give it a name. And then you use this anger to really strengthen and fortify your own self, your own boundary. You stake it. You put it in the ground and you go, this is me. This is what I will stand for. This is what I won't stand for. You get that clarity. You understand what it is you care about finally. And I love this. I heard this again from Luna Leone. She said, if you can't get someone to honor you, honor the fuck out of yourself. I really love that. And that's what we do with that anger. It's like we breathe it in to that metaphorical boundary all around us and we honor the fuck out of ourselves. We give ourselves what we need. We meet our own needs. We ask for what we need. We use our voice. We step into our power. We take a risk. We get out there. We get angry. We show our anger, not by attacking or being violent, but we show what we're passionate about. And that's how change happens. And that's why so many women and men at midlife have a career change, because they are seeing the world very differently. They want more meaning. They want more purpose in their lives. So at midlife and menopause, rage comes to the surface. Yes, it's to do with hormones. Hormones are involved, and you may need help with nutrition, supplements, HRT, exercise, getting out in nature, all of that stuff. But here we have this real invitation to peel back the layers and understand psychologically, emotionally, mentally, what's going on, what's not working for us anymore. So of course this work, you can do this work on your own if you're skilled, if you're already a coach, if you've, read lots of books, you can grab your journal, you can do it for yourself. But often sometimes people like to feel supported in this process, in this midlife menopausal transition. So I would urge you to really get the support that you need, especially if you're having a really difficult time of it. And that's why I just want to talk to you about rapid transformational therapy. If you haven't heard of it, then I would love to explain what it is and how it might be able to help you if you are struggling. So at the core of anger, we usually have a belief that I'm not safe, I need to be protected, I need to be protected, the I. the inner being needs to be protected. You might have a belief that is you're not honoring yourself, and you want to honor yourself. You can't honor yourself. You don't deserve to honor yourself. And you might not have these firm boundaries in place as a result of your energy just being out there. Maybe you're getting something. Maybe you're sabotaging yourself from your energy being out there. So how can RTT help? Well, first of all, what is it? So it's a 2-hour treatment, often goes on a bit longer than that. But it's a very intense process that's done under hypnosis. We do regression. We go back to scenes in your life where you might have picked up certain beliefs about yourself. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be seen, heard, respected, felt. Nobody meets my needs. I'm invisible. I'm not important. I'm not significant. Where did that come from? What happened to you to make you believe that? Was it your caregivers? Was it sibling? Was it a grandparent? Was it an aunt and uncle? Was it just the world that we live in? Was it a social narrative, a cultural narrative? Did you learn it from school? We learn where it comes from, and under hypnosis, it's so powerful because we've got our eyes closed. When our eyes are closed, we're so much more connected to our emotions, and it's emotions that leverage change, not knowledge. Knowledge or logic doesn't make you change, but emotions do. So when we go to that emotional place under hypnosis, we really feel it and we get a new level of clarity. We remember those scenes that we experienced as a child, but as an adult, with our adult mind, we get to re-understand what happened to us. We get to re-understand what was the meaning that we attached to that, and then how can I attach a new meaning to it. So half the treatment is exploration and discovery, and half the treatment is positive installation, reclaiming your power, taking your power back, putting that stake in the ground, starting to build those firm boundaries so that you know where you end and everyone else begins. You're not seeping out into the world trying to save everything and everyone and getting resentful and angry in the process. So when you work with me, what happens is we have a very thorough consultation for about half an hour, 45 minutes. We then book your 2-hour RTT treatment in, which is done brilliantly via Zoom. After that, I create a very unique and special recording that I kind of download for you and use some of the information in the session. And you listen to that recording for every day for 30 days. You let it embed. You let those new beliefs and programs really knit into your consciousness so that you start to behave differently automatically. We have a couple of catch-up calls as well. We have 2 catch-up calls, 2 follow-up calls, coaching calls, whatever you want to call them, just to reflect, look at how far you've come, talk about some strategies. And I also offer WhatsApp support as well, which is really, really good if you need me in that moment, or if there's something that you just want clarity on in the here and now. So that's how RTT can help you. So I hope you have enjoyed that live on anger. I know we got a little bit heavy, but hopefully you will understand why we need to go there. Please drop me an email if there's anything else that I can help you with. It's info@sallygarozzo.com, or my website is sallygarozzo.com. Feel free to drop me a direct message as well if you've got any questions, or if you want to book yourself in for a consultation, which is free, by the way. Okay, so I will be going live on my business page every Monday evening at 6 p.m. And next week I am going to be announcing a brand new service, a brand new offering, which I am so thrilled about. I cannot wait to share this with you. So please just pop it in your diary, and I will see you next Monday at 6 p.m. Bye for now. Lots of love.